I do think that the role of HR has changed significantly during the recession, and if anything, I think people's leadership's understanding of HR and the importance and the value of it changed significantly. And I do think that HR this time managed the recession much better than any other recession. And I think the difference has been that they've really used the learnings from previous recessions, where we had much more of a slash and burn type of approach, where we said cut over the top, over 15% of the workforce without really consideration on real talent, whereas the talent agenda has over the years built up. And I think the HR has managed it this time with much more care to, well, let's be careful, let's engage people, let's try to protect our talent as much as possible. And also it's worth remembering that in previous recessions, we had a lot of fat. We could actually cut. But in the last years, after the 2001 recession, etc., in fact, organizations entered this recession with not much fat. So there wasn't really a lot to cut. So every member was really needed. So I think HR took the view that, we don't have a lot to cut. We need to keep these people. 2 years down the line, we're going to re-recruit them. So let's try to think how we keep them. Let's engage them into going through this hard time. And that's been very successful in a lot of organizations. Even tactical things around shorter working hours or people taking sabbaticals, etc. People understood it, participated, and I think now we have a workforce that probably appreciated being cared about. So when we look at engagement statistics, they haven't actually dipped as you would have expected in a recession, because people, I think, were engaged, and I think HR has made that happen. So I believe they're emerging out of the recession much more credible, with a reputation that actually says, yes, that can add value to the business. I think it is, and particularly if you talk about all the rhetoric we had a few years ago about the employment deal has changed, people now want flexibility, people want to work from home, they want work-life balance, etc. But we hadn't really cracked it almost. And the recession somehow, by necessity, allowed those things to happen. There was a lot of growth, and I think there was a lot of work to almost catch up with it. We will have to re-look at reward strategy almost from square one. I think that's the stage. I think 2010 is going to be a hard year from reward point of view, and maybe harder in terms of choices we need to make than 2009, because in 2009, in a way, we had no budget, and everyone knew, and that was it. 2010 now, it's the second year of, people are saying, well, I haven't received anything last year. There is talk of inflation starting to increase. So I think 2010 is a year of harder choices. And meanwhile, what also happened is during the recession, a lot of organizational models have changed. And I think, and that was really what I was talking about in the session, we almost need to stand back again and say, what do we do in terms of reform strategy? How do we balance alignment with the business, i.e., paying for the new business model? Now, if we're saying we're going to be customer-centric, how are we going to pay for customer centricity? A lot of us said we were customer-centric. We paid in our product silos. Wasn't really aligned. So the alignment is one factor. Value to the employee. If people will have very limited budget, how do they make the most out of it? And really the cost and risk aspect of it. How much can I afford? And what is the inherent risk in my reward strategy, which is really an element that has come up very strongly with the recession. So I think we're going to be in a stage where a lot of organizations will have to almost stand back and say, what should the reward strategy be in the new world? And then align performance and rewards with performance and talent strategies with that. I think it's changing a little bit in the sense that, again, if you look at what the recession has done, is a lot of organizations who didn't have money to give out, they use other ways of engaging people. There's been a lot more emphasis on leadership visibility, managers' role in the organization, and the communication around how well the business is doing. And I think maybe when we think about reward going forward, we're going to be thinking about all these things that make people engage in an organization, not just reward as to your paycheck. So I think there's a little bit of shift in that respect. But the whole culture change, you can't have it in 6 months, 12 months' time. The regulations are going to impact certainly how people perceive things. And the whole understanding of risk in reward, as opposed to just the quantum. So I think we're going to see some changes. It's early to say, but I think although we were rivals, I think the first thing that our chairman and CEO did, really on both sides, was bringing the values together, and they look so much alike. And I think both organizations have been very successful because of their client focus. So in terms of creating the new organization, the values have again been drafted around the clients. And when you avoid the internal differences and you focus on how you serve your client better, and what we see is that when we put both organizations together, the depth and variety of services we can offer is enormous. So across services, across industries. So I think a lot of the enthusiasm have been created around all these things that we can now do for our clients and how much better we can serve them. I think one thing to do is they got really close to the business during the cycle. They need to hang on to that. I think that was great. They really added value. We shouldn't revert to type because that was hard transition. We need to get going. I think that was fantastic. Sometimes the business gets a momentum of its own, and it's important for HR to remain connected to the business and also make sure that since the business has changed, the business model has changed, they're able to realign the people's systems with it.